Welcome to Contra Gentile, Season 3, Episode 26, we said.
Yes.
All right, I need to... What are you doing now? You're making last-second adjustments to the cameras. Things were chaotic today. It's fine. Yeah.
I just noticed that when I was flipping back and forth, our frame was a bit different.
You're a perfectionist, which is good. We need a perfectionist around.
Yes.
I need to juice the teat of the box wine.
Oh, yes. You got it?
Off camera.
Yeah.
I think it was $13.99. 3 liters of wine for $13.99 in a box from Costco.
I can't do that the way you did it.
I know, because your arms are a little short like a baby's.
Yeah.
Little tiny baby arms. Anyway.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't think you did the intro yet, right?
I did. I just said it. I said it, and then you
okay.
went and adjusted, so... Oh, that's not nearly as good as the bottled one,
Yeah.
but it'll be fine. It's fine.
Awesome.
I'll get used to it. Anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
And you?
Good. Just hanging out. Just waited to record for a while. It's fine.
Should we go into it already then?
Just go right into it.
Yeah. Is there something to fidget?
Or did you want to talk about
The Twitter?
Yeah, you don't have to if you don't want.
Oh yeah, I mean, I guess
you've just developed this new enjoyment of just tweeting things that make people mad, which is what kind of Twitter's for.
Yeah. I guess it just I kind of see the organic nature of how that happens or why it happens.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of times it just happens that somebody posts something that is just blatantly wrong. And then you kind of engage with it, and then you keep hearing how wrong they are, and then you begin to see other people engaging to your comments, and they're all wrong.
Yeah.
And so then that starts riling up an emotion of just annoyance. And so
yeah, it's like when you block somebody, there should be a feature to punch them in the face through the
something,
phone when you
right?
block them.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
And so then normally the posts, I guess, that piss a lot of people off are after I engage with just commenting on somebody else's stupid remarks.
Yeah.
And then I'm so frustrated that I want to make a universal statement.
Yeah.
To all
like a litmus test.
Yes. Yeah.
For your followers and people who hate you.
Yes. To see, okay, are they going to engage with it in the same way that I've just encountered the stupidity? And unsurprisingly, yes, it ends up being that bad. And so
yeah, you said Luther's a prophet or something, which is something you've said on the show many times.
Yeah, it's just that the nature of what he represents is not merely a figure in a continuous stream of belief, right? And so I think what annoys me the most about discussing with Protestants, and I think discussing many years with a variety of different people, like even going to grad school and discussing with atheists, discussing with a Mohammedan, and so on and so forth. And then one time I had a student that's a Mormon, and then there's the people on Twitter that are Mormons and everything. And what I've noticed was that there always are unique. The two groups of people that share the most in common are the new atheists and Protestants.
Oh yeah.
And I think they both, the thing that they both share in common is not just their zealotry. I think
zealotry.
Yes. I think one of them is their ability. I don't even want to call it ability, but it is their nature to rewrite history. That's a major point.
Well, their lack of concern with being accurate historically.
But it almost seems purposefully, at least at some point it was, and then many of them start to believe the narrative that was presented. And so that's the part that bothers me. And then another one is that they both want to claim origin of a certain type of thought to where it really did not originate in that realm.
Yeah.
And so the Protestants want to have a very strict continuity between Christ and Protestant and Luther, right? Yeah. Like as if there was a continuous stream of theology connection.
Like Luther somehow was drawing on all of Christian tradition to do what he did.
Yeah. And so they wanted to build a continuity between Christ and that's just, it's not intellectually honest. It's not historically accurate. It's not really anything. Like you really have to be fabricating things to make that point. And this is why many times, even if there's a heated debate with an Eastern Orthodox person, normally the anger is on their side. I mean, Eastern Orthodox hate Catholics more than Catholics hate either.
Like, by a lot.
Yes, I think Catholics.
Even if hate is a strong word, it's still true. It's
yeah. I don't mean like they literally want us dead, but I do think that there's animosity on their side, not really on ours. We kind of like view them as the brother that refuses to do something, but he's really not that bad, but he's just being stupid.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times when we talk to Eastern Orthodoxy, it's like, well, just, for me, it's like, just knock it off. They want to keep on presenting these things as if they're really deeply theological distinctions. Like, what's about the
Palinism?
Yes, yeah, essence and energies. And so I was like, okay. After reading them and after researching, it's like these aren't intrinsically different ideas.
It's different ways of kind of saying the same thing.
Right. It comes from a different tradition, so there's a different language and everything. But it's the same thing like with the Immaculate Conception. They always want to bring that. It's like you realize that the Eastern Catholics are the same way in this because they ascribe to a different formation of what is that? Original sin. Yeah. The reason is because the way that the West describes original sin is they say specifically they use the stain. They use the word the stain of original sin. Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk to an Eastern Rite Catholic or an Eastern Orthodox, they say that Westerners are saying that you are born with a guilt. Mm-hmm. Fine, even if I were to accept that, right? And there are some Westerners that do use that term later on. I'm not denying that. So yes, there is a reality there that there are Westerners that use that term that were born with a guilt. But so when you read like Saint John Chrysostom, he argues heavily against the Augustinian view of original sin. Yeah. But it isn't as if they don't believe there's any consequence to it. If you talk to an Eastern Orthodox or an Eastern Catholic, you say, yeah, but what is the consequence of original sin? They always say, well, it's death. It's not being in the Garden of Eden. And so they believe that there was a consequence to the sin of Adam. But they refuse to say that we carry the guilt of the sin of Adam. So if we don't carry the guilt of the sin of Adam, there's no need for the doctrine of Immaculate Conception of Mary. Yeah. Now, the reason why this is not contrary to the Catholic faith is because if you begin with that proposition, that we do not carry the guilt of original sin, that necessarily means that nobody is born with a guilt of original sin, which would still mean that Mary was not born with the guilt of original sin. So
then we're just all immaculate.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it doesn't violate the Catholic doctrine.
It expands it.
It expands it.
It's more liberal in its
right. And so this is what I mean is that whenever they throw any of those things at the Catholic faith, it doesn't actually violate the doctrines of the Catholic faith, which is why they accept it as proper dogma. But anyways, and so discussing with them, there's a difference, right? The Catholics easily can admit, yes, Peter was the first bishop of Antioch, right? He was a bishop of Antioch before he became the bishop of Rome. I have no issue saying that. No Catholic
But he still moved to Rome.
Yes, but he still moved to Rome, right? And so discussing with Eastern Orthodox, the nice thing is that we at least agree with the reality of history. Like we're functioning within the same realm of what is true.
Well, you have the same, the milestones are all the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All that stuff is the same. Now they have the distinctions. They're more upset about it than we are, but fine. When you talk to a Mohammedan, I remember there's this one guy from Iran that I went to grad school with, and I talked to him at length about it. And the nice thing about talking with them is that it never really devolves into, probably it does if you live in a place that is like politically, staunchly, theocratically Mohammedan. That kills Christians. I get that, but I'm just talking about a regular, Iranian or somebody living in Europe that's a Mohammedan or an American that was a Mohammedan, they're not really chopping people's heads off over here, right?
Yeah.
So I do want to make a distinction there. But talking with them, it never devolves into ad hominem attacks because they're being intellectually honest. Like, I could describe to them church history and they could be 100% on board. They'd be like, yeah, they believe all that is true. They don't believe that Christ was divine, but they do believe he was a prophet, and that he set in stone this church and everything, and that the Aryans moved over there to the east. But then ultimately, God spoke to his new prophet that kind of fulfilled the entire promise of the Old Testament, and that this new prophet, wrote the Quran, and that they follow the new prophet in his prophecies. The same thing is with the Mormons. It's like when I speak to them, it's like they could agree with church history.
They probably don't. They're probably not nearly as well versed in it.
They're not. Yeah, but when I speak,
they're so far removed. But they'll just kind of accept what you're saying. Yeah, not lies.
Yes, and for them, it's like they don't. It doesn't matter. It's like that was true until when was Joseph Smith? 1800s or
18? Probably 30s, 40s, 50s.
So that was true for the first 1800 years of Christianity. But then when Joseph Smith and God spoke to him, he fulfilled the promises of Christ and established his new paradigm for these new saints. They're the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, and so they have these new theology that was developed through the prophet. All this makes sense to me. It's like I could see that. Okay, what can our disputes really be then? Yeah. Our disputes. Okay, how theologically sound are yours? We can get to a philosophical discussion on the nature of God. Mm-hmm. They could begin to accept basic Aristotelian ideas of God within their religion, because we're no longer functioning in like fantasy world. Like we're literally concrete historical realities. You have a prophet. We have Christ. He believes that they believe that Christ literally appeared to Joseph. Fine. So they would claim to have Christ, but then we could dispute the nature whether he's a true prophet. Yeah. That could be an interesting discussion, but overall I could have a coherent, rational, good discussion with them. But when it comes to the new atheists, you can't, because they want to claim, for example, that if you left human beings outside of culture, we all are born atheists. And you look at it, it's like, well, it's not true. Just historically speaking, every civilization has ever existed has never been atheist. Yeah. And so, no, it's not true that if you're just left to yourself, you will conclude necessarily that there is reality beyond you. Now you could anthropomorphize that reality, and then you have these particular gods, but overall most people will conclude, no, whether you're an earth worshiper or a universe worshiper and you believe that the universe is what's in charge that created you
that's still not atheist.
Like you're still believing in a higher power, higher reality that has more of everything that you have that kind of made reality what it is. And so there's that's just a false statement. And then when they get into history, they want to talk about the development of science. Like, you realize that most of our biological categories, even humans as mammals, came from monks.
Yes.
I think it was the 1300s.
Was it Mendel a monk or something?
Was it? Yeah, I can't remember the specific. Yeah, they're all botany. Yeah. Like the study of plants were monks. Like you're talking about
the Big Bang is Catholic.
Yeah. Like you really. You can't just make shit up. And so then the argument just devolves into discussing what is real, what is true in there. And we never even get into the particulars of their claims anymore, because their fundamental axioms are just wrong. And then with the Protestants, it's the same thing. They want to say that there's a continuity in reality, in history, between Christ, the apostles, and Luther.
Well, there is, maybe insofar as he was a priest ever.
Right, and that's what I mean. Like, the only continuity really that you could connect Luther with the apostles and Christ is literally that he was a Catholic priest. Like, that is the only continuity there. Yeah. And so if you want to claim the continuity, then you're saying that the church was valid in its in its ordinations of priests and bishops. I mean, that is the only other option. If not, if you say no, that is not what's the continuity, but some vague theological connection between him and the biblical texts and some obscure heretics that existed in the year 1100s that were a branch of the fucking Albigensians or whatever. It's like, why are you bringing this up? I acknowledge historically that there existed heretics in the church since the beginning. Yeah. right? And that many of the Protestants, like I make that argument all the time. I think that Protestantism is a modern form of Albigensianism. You know, when early modern period came about, they rejected Albigensianism, which was, in their point, their modern form of Manichaeism, which was their form of Zoroastrianism. And so, yes, there are these connections between other heresies that existed in the church. I never claimed that Luther was the first one, but Luther is the one that started Lutheranism. Luther is the one that started Protestantism. And as a Protestant, there are basic tenets that one must believe. They must believe, like a Protestant cannot believe that the church magisterium is correct.
Yeah.
And that the papacy is correct. That you cannot, as a Protestant, if you believe...
That just makes you Catholic.
That just makes you Catholic, right. And so what are the things that define Protestant? Is rejecting the hierarchy of the church, is rejecting church tradition, it's rejecting, church authority, it's rejecting basically everything that is Catholic. And unfortunate for them, everything that was Christian in the West was Catholic.
No.
Everything that was Christian in the East was either Byzantine Catholic originally and then became Orthodoxy later. No. But its origin is still in that unified church. Theirs is not. The origin of Protestantism is Luther. And then some people try to comment and say, well, you're confusing with the Zwinglians. It's like, I'm not, because even the Zwinglians at least had to accept the premises of Luther.
The theses.
Yeah, the Zwinglians didn't just come out of nowhere. They came out of the Protestant revolt as well. Mm-hmm. And they have their own prophet, they have their own origin, they have their own whatever. Same thing with the Quakers, same thing with the Shakers, same thing with the Anabaptists. Yes, they all have their own particular origin, but all of their origin stops with Luther. Like Luther is the originator, in which all of these groups of people have to agree on, which is why I move Anglicanism away from that, because Anglicanism is
was
Protestant.
It wasn't Protestant.
No, it wasn't Protestant. Yeah. It started from basically a schism. Yeah. So the Church of England and the Church of Rome were unified, and then the Church of England broke away because he wanted to divorce. Yeah. Like that's a different history. Yeah. I never connect that with Protestantism. They're Anglicans. You have your own bullshit that you have to deal with, right? Yeah. But Protestant, no, there's an actual ethos that unifies all of them. The only thing that unifies them is anti-Catholic. That is a unifying principle. And when you're anti-Catholic, you necessarily are meaning that you're anti-Church of the West since Christ. Yeah, that is what it means to be anti-Catholic, because our origin is there. You cannot tell me that Linus was not our second pope, even if you want to deny Peter as a first pope. No, we have documentation. Linus was the other pope, was the other bishop of Rome. Mm-hmm. We're not, that's not something that you can be. No, he wasn't. It's like what he was, and so this is the issue with discussing with Protestants, is that there are, I think, fundamental ideas that first need to be accepted before we get into the discussion whether Luther was correct or not. Mm-hmm. Because none of this means that Luther was incorrect. Maybe he was a prophet sent by God to cleanse the church and establish his new order. That's possible.
But now, the argument is just about what happened.
Yes. Yeah. But we can never even get to that because they want to claim continuity from the beginning. It's like, you can't. That just, it is so absurd that we can never move past that, and that's all that ends up being. And so,
it's insane.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And just becomes bickering. It just becomes ad hominem attacks that they normally do on Catholics. Call us papists. Call us what that guy call me a clown. It's like, when did I ever insult you? There's nothing I said. I was like, you stupid moron, faggot. I mean, I could have.
I jump in there and just do that.
Yes, yeah, but no, I didn't.
Like, you're a waste of space. You're like,
those are insults.
But I just do that because I'm not going to say anything. Anyway, that has been your 20-minute long.
Was it 20 minutes?
Rant about people arguing with you on Twitter is essentially.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's insane.
No, but that's a good segue to what we're going to talk about. Yes. I think we had mentioned we were going to do Wild Wild Country this week. I didn't feel like watching anything. We can do that another time soon. Yeah. We both went through David Bentley Hart's much derided. Mm-hmm. Is it Apocalypse and Tradition? Is the name of it?
I think the other way around, isn't it?
Tradition and Apocalypse?
Something like that.
One of them. Yeah. Would it be funny if we pretend we just don't know the title?
Yeah. We should look it up.
Would he like that more or not?
No. You guys didn't really read it.
Yeah, we did.
No, but after, going through that,
Tradition and apocalypse.
Yeah.
I keep saying it wrong.
So, I mean, after going through that, I completely agree with this email to you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That we wouldn't get along?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So should I don't know if we've mentioned, well, we haven't mentioned that in a long time.
Yeah.
So who is David Bentley Hart? He's a
Eastern Orthodox.
well, quote unquote Eastern Orthodox after reading this. Like,
yeah.
Eastern, quote unquote Eastern Orthodox. I mean, I guess he's confirmed Eastern Orthodox, but
yeah,
the book is extremely not Orthodox. But let me try to find. I'm just trying to find the email. I was just kind of like, maybe was it last year?
Yeah.
I guess I'll see when the session expired. Why is it always logging us out of our podcast email account?
I don't know.
Does it do that to you frequently?
Oh yeah, like every time.
Yeah, it's like I don't understand. Why it doesn't do it to any of my other Gmail accounts.
Whenever we do the live stream, I have to log back in.
Okay, he said DBH.
Yeah.
He types his name as an acronym. So I just sent him an invite like, hey, this is kind of what we do. This is where we are. Would you want to come out? He goes on people's. I'll like look him up, and it's like him. And with like sitting in the bottom of his camera frame with a lapel mic on some guy's show with like 70 views.
I know, yeah.
It's just like, this guy will come on our show.
Yeah.
So I sent it, and he says, "Dear Grant, thanks for the invitation. The invitation to visit your podcast, which is passed on to me by the administrator of the Facebook page. I don't have an account. I have to decline. I should also point out that you apparently have a somewhat inaccurate view of my positions on a good number of issues. Believe me, we probably would not get along. Best, DBH." It was like the like cattiest email I've ever received. Yes. Because I read my email again. I don't think I said anything that would.
Yeah, I don't remember what you said. I think you said something about Thomism. He always says he's not a Thomist, but everyone.
I didn't say he was a Thomist. I said that what we do is.
Yes, but I think there was. He most likely inferred from what you were saying that you guys would agree with like Thomistic principles and things like that.
No, I didn't. I didn't say that though.
I know you didn't say
that. But anyway,
that,
it was a very bitchy email. But
yeah.
So he's just kind of been the butt of a lot of jokes, kind of subtly on the show.
Believe me,
I don't think we would get along.
Yeah,
we probably would not get along anyway.
No. I even before that I knew we wouldn't.
It would be funny though.
It would.
Anyway,
it still would be an interesting conversation.
Yes, yeah, I know. I think it would. Yeah, but anyway, because he's written quite a few books.
Yes,
he wrote a lot He wrote a lot.
So I only read 3 of his books.
Which ones have you seen?
It was Mind, Consciousness, and Bliss. I think it was called.
Yeah, that was one of his. Or was early to mid 2000s.
Maybe I don't remember when. Okay. No, I think it was like 2013, maybe.
Oh,
2014. And then
it was on the Experience of God.
Yeah,
I've read that one.
Yeah.
And
then the one about the problem of evil. What was that one called again? He doesn't have very memorable titles.
I don't know.
Like I remember the subject and what I read.
Yeah. But, he's written quite a lot.
And then this one. Those are the 3 ones
that you've read.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't read On the Experience of God. What was the? It was essentially a. I'm trying to find a list of his books. Yeah, he's written like 20 books. Yeah. I'm trying to find. Oh, this is written in reverse order. Okay, so you read. Yeah, I've read The Experience of God, Being, Consciousness, and Bliss. Yes, yeah,
that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah.
When was that one written?
That was kind of recent, I thought.
2013. Okay.
2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I thought it was while the New Atheists were doing their thing.
Oh yeah.
Like they were when Phaser was writing.
Yeah.
But he was way late because it was essentially the same tone as like the Last Superstition by Edward Phaser. If no one's read that, it was the Experience of God was very. Was very similar in its attacks against New Atheists, but like he 8 years later.
He always says much less though.
Yeah.
Like Phaser. I just flat out. I much more appreciate Phaser's writing.
Of course.
Some people like David Bentley Hart's writing more because he writes in prose and
I think it's good prose. I think technically he's a good writer.
Yes, but
syntactically.
Yeah, but I think content-wise, when you actually read him, he rarely makes arguments. He makes many assertions that don't really lead to anywhere. And this was my criticism when I read can you find the title of the book that's about the problem of evil? Something with tsunami or something like that?
I'm looking through his. Man, there's so many words in all of his titles. It's like I'm reading a book.
That's why I can never really remember the
Tsunami.
Titles. I thought it was something.
Tsunami and Theodicy.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, it's an article.
Is that no? Then it was a short book. Maybe it's called an article, but it was only like that thin. It was pretty.
Oh, okay. Regardless.
Yeah, but anyways, and so he talked about the problem of evil, and it was the same thing in that one where he talks about basically every explanation given to theodicy was insufficient for him to explain away evil, but then in the end he never really answers it much at all. And so and I feel very similar about this text, but since it's more fresh in your head, I kind of want to hear what you think about it. It reminded me of that text a lot.
Well, so you had mentioned kind of when you were listening to it.
Yeah.
Because I listened to it starting last night at like 6 p.m.
Yeah.
And finished it at like 1 today.
Yeah.
So I blew through it. But you had mentioned that it was it feels almost exclusively like a response purely to like Newman.
Yes, yeah.
It really didn't seem to any like concrete criticism he had of anybody.
Yeah.
Was essentially, what's that group? Is it the Oxford movement?
The Newman Society?
The Oxford movement.
Yeah.
It's like it describes a movement of people around the same time that were
Anglos. Yeah.
They were Anglo-Catholics.
Yeah.
Who were attempting to reestablish.
Yes, yeah, and they were actually successful in
dogma
many ways.
in the church.
Because
Newman's awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of England at that point converted back to Catholicism. Like there was a lot. I don't remember the population in there now, but the population in England is pretty high, and the population of the Anglican Church is reducing, I believe, every year.
But it was what would you, if you had to synthesize the thesis of the book?
So it seemed like, okay, so Newman, a lot of Newman's conversion back to Catholicism. Well, I don't think he was raised Catholic, but Church of England was.
He was Anglican.
Yes, he was Anglican.
Catholic. Yeah. Well, he was a priest in the Anglican Church.
He was, yes.
And then the church just recognized his priesthood.
Yes, because
he wasn't even
because again, like the Orthodox, there's an actual apostolic succession with Church of England, which I think a lot of people don't realize, which is why they're not again Protestant. But the so him, it seemed like the basic thesis of the text was attacking the idea of the Catholic Church tradition. The
idea that a tradition can be coherent.
Yeah, coherent, yes. Yeah, and that there is no actually coherent continuity from the way that Newman and many of the other theologians of that era presented it. Mm-hmm. And that really seems to be his argument. And so a lot of his argument that tries to support that, it was, that many of the things that were developed in the church are not biblical. Which is why I said that it almost seemed like where does it say that in the Bible? Well, because he was raised
Protestant.
He was
extremely Protestant and then became Eastern Orthodox. This feels like it was written by a Protestant.
It does, yes. And so
because Eastern Orthodox almost emphasize tradition more than Catholics do.
Yes, yeah. Well, at least
aesthetically, and
they don't really hold the position of the living church necessarily. Like they're static in their time in their time frame. And so a lot of his criticism were just tired and old. Yeah, it's like it doesn't say in the Bible. It's like, okay, well, the one comment, like if I was talking to him in person, the one comment I would say to him is like, yeah, but you're aware that the Bible was like assembled through councils with tradition supporting it.
Yeah,
like
he kept using the metaphor of a turtle standing on its own back or something.
Right, yeah.
You know how his idea of, or his allegory for Catholic tradition was tradition built upon tradition for its own sake.
Yes,
like a turtle trying to stand on its own back to.
Right, yeah. It was just bizarre.
It was bizarre because
that was an incoherent.
It's an totally incoherent book.
Yeah.
Because he argues that there is necessarily no continuity between like would you say he claims that every culture in time interprets dogma differently? So it's not necessarily
and not only that they interpreted differently, that it was influenced by these other cultures that adopted,
and that because of that it's impossible for because it wasn't just about the Catholic Church. It was about tradition per se.
It was,
It was a lot of
but a lot of it was attacking Newman, who was Catholic. So a lot of his attacks directly were against the Catholics.
Yes, but I'm just saying. I think a lot of his. I walked away with. It's not just about the church. It's about. He's saying that tradition is ridiculous per se.
Yes, yeah.
And the Catholics do that. So Catholic bad.
Yes,
that's kind of the.
That seems like what it was.
Yeah, and because I thought reading just that, you would not walk away with the impression that he knows anything about church history.
Yeah,
which as an Eastern Orthodox theologian, one would figure that he would know the chronology of events and what an ecumenical council is and what dogma is.
Right. And really, like, whenever he kept bringing scripture, my response was like,
why is he doing that?
Yeah. It's like, I don't understand. Like, why are you bringing this up?
Yeah.
Are you saying that the church was built on scripture? Or ought to be built on scripture?
Because Eastern Orthodox people don't say that.
They don't, right? Yes, and so it was bizarre to me. He
kept saying anarchist God.
Yes, like that Christian
consensualist God.
It was strictly anarchist, in its beginning. That maybe he kind of
what did he say? He said that the binding ethos of early Christians was just their longing for apocalypse and had nothing to do with doctrine or dogma or shared tradition or anything. They just were all Christians and believed whatever they wanted, but all had like a shared yearning for the end times.
Yeah. Which doesn't make much sense. Again,
when was Origen writing?
Yeah.
In like the 200s, 300s?
Yeah. Which doesn't make sense because we had a hierarchy early on. It isn't like look up when was Linus the Bishop of Rome?
Linus, Bishop, Pope?
Yeah, Pope, yeah.
Okay. Pope Linus was 76 AD. It was when his papacy ended.
Yeah. And look, when was Ignatius in Antioch?
Ignatius?
Yeah, Ignatius was the second bishop of Antioch.
1 second. I'm just okay. Ignatius of Antioch was, he died... it's varying accounts, but he died in the first half of hundreds AD.
Yeah.
So he died at most 75 years after Ignatius or Linus died.
Yeah. And so when he makes these comments, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, so the funny part is Linus was no longer Pope. He died in 76 AD, so he's no longer Pope. Before that was Peter.
Yes, yeah. Well, exactly. It's so bizarre to me. So when he's making these claims, it seems like such sloppy work, and he's not even addressing it.
Which is weird because he's not. He's vague and not super. He's more verbose than he is.
Yeah. Rich in content.
Thorough. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Verbose than thorough. Okay. But at least he likes to be right.
Yes.
But this is just like.
So you're not going to bring this up? You're going to make this claim that the Christians weren't unified with some kind of hierarchy, and then there is a hierarchy right there that existed.
Wasn't the first doctor of the church was like Irenaeus of Lyon or something? It was
well, something. Yeah,
130 AD was when he was born.
Yes.
He's talking about he asserted that the vast majority of Christians, or at least the tone he used, asserted that the vast majority of Christians took great issue with the Nicene Creed.
Yeah.
Like there was just the council the Ecumenical Council held in Nicaea was somehow derided and everybody thought it was dumb.
Yeah, you know who did? The Arians.
He talked about the Arians a lot. He likes Arians.
I know he does. Like he talked about them as if they were really the original. That was really the original Christian ethos was the Aryans. I'm like It was. He
did mention Albigensians. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I know. But
anytime that comes up,
but it was such sloppy academic work that I don't see how he's not embarrassed.
Well, it almost feels like he did it from memory. Like he just sat down and wrote it and didn't look at anything.
Like he was just so fat and lazy that he just eating a big chicken thigh while just typing this with one hand.
He's got a giant turkey leg.
Yes, that is how I imagined. Like it was that sloppy. I was like, did you not even try? You're not going to address basic history?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like he was trying to discuss this from a secularist point of view. Like if you were just a secularist historian looking at this is the way he tried to present it.
Yeah.
And I think it did a very poor job of that. Just a very poor job. It wasn't good work and very disappointing. And it was probably as disappointing as I was with his arguments against all the rest of the arguments for theodicy, because I don't understand why this was written at all.
Like, that's what I'm kind of wondering.
It was so bad that I don't even understand why he wrote it at all. Just in terms of pure ego, I would be embarrassed if I wrote that and got it published and put it out there, because it lacks so much like argumentation, so much content, so much history, that it literally is worse than reading a Nietzschean book.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten more out of history.
Because at least he's claiming things.
Yes. Out of Nietzsche.
That are interesting.
Than I did for this.
Yeah.
This was just bad. It was just bad work. Even if you were to agree with everything he said there, I don't think one can disagree that it was just bad work. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even that well written as some of his other ones.
So he's very, I don't know what the word would be, theatrical when he writes.
Yes.
Like he is very it's almost autobiographical, in that he talks to you while he's writing, and he says something at the end like he's like, I'm embarrassed by how colloquial the last few chapters have been. I hope it hasn't, I don't remember, it's like lost me any possible respect that I may have garnered in the beginning. It's something like that near the end. It's like, what are you doing?
I know.
Why are you writing this?
Exactly.
I actually liked the last part of it better because it was more entertaining to.
It was. At least it was
read.
Better.
Like, yeah.
But the one criticism I had even before this text, with some other people, was that I really do think that he's more entertaining than he is correct
or intelligent.
Yeah. And,
well, he's the one who thinks he's smarter than Aquinas, literally.
I know.
Has he said that?
He believes he's more correct than Aquinas. I think he said that many times. Yeah. And so when I read him, and when I listen to him talk, that's normally what I get out of it. I get out of that he says things in an interesting way. And it's entertaining.
When he's correct, the way he says things that are correct are beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you actually try to pick apart his ideas, they tend to be rather vapid. Mm-hmm. The fact that he honestly thinks that theodicy is the biggest issue in believing in God, I find...
It's very childish.
It is. It's as bad as the new atheists.
Well, that's their only argument.
Yeah.
Well, if God good, then how kid die cancer?
Yes, that's what it's like. That's what his entire book was. It was about like tsunami, and because there was that great tsunami that happened in one of those like shithole countries.
Shitty. I was gonna say shitty Southeast Asian countries.
Yeah,
like 200,000 people.
Yes, yeah, and then that a good God wouldn't allow this, and in the end,
if God could, how people die tsunami?
Yeah, and like it's such a long, verbose text. And you could literally synthesize his entire idea with like a few sentences. Yeah. His basic argument was like, God would not allow this. It was the devil. That is literally his argument. His argument there was, it was the devil.
Okay.
It was like,
And
yes, okay. I don't know what to do.
He should just write fiction.
Yes.
Okay.
He should be like a speechwriter. He should be with somebody who actually has...
Polya should write fiction.
Yes.
Foucault could probably write some pretty good fiction.
Yeah, Foucault would. Deleuze.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Spectacular fiction.
It would, yeah. I really think that Deleuze is more profound than David Bentley Hart. When I read like Anti-Oedipus, not that
we need to cover... We have to cover Deleuze and Guattari.
Yeah. I mean, let's do Anti-Oedipus. I think it's a really good one because, like, I always had a distaste towards behaviorism, but it wasn't until I read Deleuze where I'm able to articulate why behaviorism is so nonsensical.
Yeah.
And I think Deleuze really synthesized the nonsense of behaviorism really well. To the point that whenever you read like Freudian texts or Lacan, you're just like, it's stupid, it's silly, it's fantasy.
Yeah.
And I think Deleuze and Guattari did a fantastic job just kind of synthesizing the errors of behaviorism. And so like those ones I think are much more profound texts. Whenever I read David Bentley Hart, I'm always left like meh, like every single time.
Was that written?
Yeah, it's okay. And I think that's why I only end up now reading 3 of them, because I first read the first one, I was like, meh. And then so you got
people like him a lot.
Yes, read Mind, Consciousness, and Bliss. I'm like, okay, I'll read that. I'm like, can you just say something, please? Yeah. That's where I feel like just make the fucking statement. Are you making the statement that there is no ontological distinction between the Hindus and or at least the Shankara version of Hinduism with Christianity? That let's discuss it. That would be an interesting topic.
Because he did that. He Because I'm trying to. He wrote something before this.
Yeah. It was in that one, Mind, Consciousness, and Bliss, where he talks a lot about Hinduism.
But there was another book. It wasn't that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Where he essentially claimed that the only valid formulation of faith is Unitarian or like Universalist. Universal.
Yeah.
Not Unitarian. Unitarian is the similar.
Yeah.
Anyway, universal, like everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this, is it tradition and apocalypse or apocalypse and tradition? I think it's tradition and apocalypse. But he mentions that, and he does this thing that a lot of people do, where he'll make a claim but make it as if it's something people have said to him, or some people think that blah 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 blah, right? Instead of just making the claim, like he made the claim, he passively made the claim in this work, Tradition and Apocalypse, that Catholicism, he's Christianity, and I think he can't be referring to Protestants, because
I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't think he is. I don't think he does, because
he does insofar when he tries to criticize Catholicism. Yeah, he tries to group the Western Church with Protestants. Yeah,
which is ridiculous. But he says something like Catholicism, Christianity, Eastern Orthodoxy, whatever, is like partially revealed truth, and that doesn't mean that other religions haven't revealed other truth that these haven't. Exactly. So that real religion is a combination of all of these things.
Yes, yeah.
Which is universal.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Unitarian. Unitarian's all Christian sects, I think, but it's the same kind of idea. Yeah. But
it's a very
he does like
1970s idea.
Yeah, he's very, very sympathetic with non-Christians in this, and affords them a lot of
which I don't necessarily dislike.
I don't think that's bad. I think like because Shankara is like,
I think
very
he's brilliant.
Yeah,
I read a lot of him, but I think the difference is that within because some people accuse Bishop Barron of this, but he's not. Yeah, he specifically says that other world religions have garnered a lot of truth. But he doesn't say that combining them is going to make it great. What he basically says is that the truth that is found in Shankara, the truth that is found in like Mohammedanism, is also found in the church, and that the church is a more fulfilled truth. But obviously, truth itself is only within being in the presence of God, being in the presence of Christ. Being completely unified in heaven. That is when you gain.
Did you see the AMA that Bishop Barron did on Reddit?
What is it? I don't know what AMA stands for.
What is it? Ask Me Anything.
Oh no!
It's like they go like, I'm going to do an AMA at this time. And they do it for
showing off his guns.
Yeah. So someone said, do you view your religion to be better than other religions?
Your word, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or and then they're like, what is it like to feel? I'm trying to find it on Twitter.
Yeah, he's like, how does it feel to be wrong? Or
how does it feel to be wrong in your beliefs? And he's like, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I see that.
That's all he says.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
He really is one of my favorite, I guess, apologists.
He does pastoralism correct.
He does.
Correctly.
He really, really does.
Yeah.
I've always admired him for that. And I think it's part of his job. The nice thing about me is that I'm not a priest.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to be pastoral. But he does, like, that's part of his job, and I think he does it wonderfully. Mm-hmm. He could have discussions with Protestants, and it doesn't go into chaos. Mm. But he never, I don't know how he does it.
I go into chaos when I see you've gone back and forth like 7 times with somebody.
Yeah.
I'll start insulting people.
I know.
Because I know you want to, but you're not going to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, somebody has to do it. And then I know that watching me do it alleviates a little bit of your, you're like, okay.
Right.
You're just going to have to laugh about it.
What that one last guy called me, like an e-cath or something.
Yeah.
I was like,
what do you mean an internet Catholic? There were like 4 people that called you an internet,
I know.
a trad cath, internet trad cath, internet Catholic.
Yeah.
It's like, that is the least accurate thing you could call a person.
Yes.
That's maybe the least accurate thing you could say in English.
Yes.
But Jeremy's an internet Catholic. It's like, you've learned how to use Twitter in the last month.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty funny. As if I have no backing in my education. It's like, whatever. I'll let you believe that.
Oh man, that logic argument you got in with the Flannery O'Connor.
Yeah. That was pretty good, I thought. Because the first one, I wasn't so mean, but then I saw you post it. And so I was like, I'm just going to go for it then. Put on a little show for people.
Yeah.
And,
I just was like, stop, please.
I know.
Stop.
It was good.
Stop going back and forth. We're gonna go on their show.
That'll be good.
Yeah. I know. Yeah,
I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, you go on. You know.
If he's that way, on the that'll be hilarious.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
If you guys both kind of go in.
Yeah. So I don't know him that well. I know he's on in the group chat and everything.
He's one of the hosts of the Faith, Liberty.
Oh, okay.
Faith. Something.
Okay.
I think someone. Oh yeah. Is it Faith, Liberty, and Praxis? I don't remember.
Oh,
the
okay.
name.
I think I've seen something.
I don't ever remember anybody's. If your podcast has more than a single. Holy shit!
What?
This is like a grapefruit full of wine. Well, we do have 3 liters of it. We will be recording with Andrew here soon.
Yeah, which will be fun. Yeah, I love Andrew. I love getting into discussions with him. He's very focused and autistic.
Yeah, I was gonna say autistic is better than focused.
And so it's pretty fun. But I like that.
He gets heated like you do, and nobody gets mad.
Yeah, it's the same way that I liked with that Flannery person. Where's that? So that person is a Catholic anarchist.
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much that's ironic or not.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, I don't know, because his profile picture used to be Ayn Rand with a crucifix.
Oh,
it was, but according to him, that was a troll. That was like a thing to make people upset.
Now it's with the crucifix on the
crucifix on Flannery O'Connor.
Yes, yeah. Which I like. Yeah, and so I think it'll be pretty. I think that'll be really entertaining.
I think they have 3 or 4 hosts.
Yeah. Oh, do they?
I think one of them's Portuguese.
Okay.
They're Brazilian.
Yeah. Oh, the Brazilian guy that's on
Portuguese.
there? Yeah, good.
I don't know. There's so many people on it that I don't know who I know that's on it.
No,
so I have a loose association.
Mm-hmm. But it'll be good. There'll probably be a lot of agreement, a lot of disagreement.
No.
He and I probably...
Caleb is one of our
Caleb's on there?
Yeah, he'd take a... Oh, yeah, he's like...
Oh, good.
He's like one... I think he's one of the originals.
Oh, okay.
He's one of the kind of the staple.
Yeah.
And he's like he'd take a bullet for us. So
yeah. beautiful.
Thinks we're right about everything, apparently. So
I'll be back to him.
He comes from a similar background that I do. He
does he?
Very Protestant parents.
Yeah.
Who totally don't get it.
Yes. Yeah.
Conversations are always painful, kind of thing.
No, that's good.
Yeah, my mom really wants me to meet her to talk about Mary.
Oh no, she didn't do that the last time you were at her place?
She texted me and then I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I just am not. Maybe we should have her on to do that.
We should. Would she do it again?
Yeah, let's have my mom on to talk about Mary.
Okay. I'll try not to make her cry again.
No, I could bring her. I could let her know, like, hey, it's contentious. She was there last time. It can't be more contentious than that.
Yeah. Okay. If she's willing to do it again.
Yeah, I'll ask her.
Okay.
I'd be more interested to have that conversation with her if it was on here.
Okay. Yeah.
Than just
that'd be fun
for fun. Like
I like your mom, and so
yeah.
I hope she would. I
hope
she
doesn't know what to do with you. She's weirded out by you.
I know. People are weirded out by truth.
I know.
That's what it is.
She doesn't know what to think.
Yeah. It's like, I think he's an asshole, but he didn't actually insult me directly.
I know.
Yeah, that's normally what it is in the end.
Yeah, she doesn't know how to react to your being.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have any more comments on the David Bentley Hart thing?
No, I think that's pretty much about it.
Not worth reading at all.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, everybody skip it.
Like I should have done more of a Trumpian, tweet like sad or something. This book sucks, sad.
Did you tweet about it?
I think I did.
You did.
Yeah,
what was your? Let me read your review immediately after having finished it. Where was it? Where did it go?
It's probably way down there after all the other comments and shit.
No. Yeah, I just finished DBH's Tradition and Apocalypse, and it's simply a Hartian version of the tried Protestant argument. Where does it say that in the Bible? Mixed with the exhausted secular argument, Catholic tradition has its roots in Roman Empire, Gnosticism, etc. Disappointing.
Yes. It was, though. It was just like, wow, I just wasted all this time listening to that bullshit. Maybe I expected more from him because so many people really admire him. And I try
He has said quotes that I've co-opted.
Yes.
But other than that, I don't.
I know. But so many people have admired
because he's
him.
a bitch in an email. Like
yeah, I know.
He's a fat.
He is.
Fat catty bitch, but.
In the end, yeah. Who's always sick. Excuse
me for sniffling.
Yeah. You know what would solve that? Lose some weight. If you're always sick and you're fat, it's probably linked to your fatness.
Do you think he'd be less bitter and weird if he lost weight?
Probably. Yeah. A little more beauty. You'd probably convert to the right religion.
Yeah.
Join the universal
He's
church.
so angry looking at all the hot Catholics and he's
like, I know.
This giant bowling ball.
All right, that's a good ragging on DVH.
That's enough.
Yes.
He's gonna hear this and he's gonna be like, you replied to my email like a catty bitch.
Yeah,
like,
I know. He's like, and I'm the fucking fag. I'm not even that catty. Maybe he was a faggot too. You never know.
I don't know.
If you could find his dick, but anyways, okay.
Yeah. Put this on the internet. It's fine. It's already. It's up.
It takes him about 5 minutes to piss because he can't find his dick. He's looking for it. Where is it?
Oh my god. I would be so much nicer and less angry.
Yeah, I know.
You remember how irritated I was at that?
Oh yeah, justifiably.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I got your email. Believe me, we wouldn't get along. Wow.
Like, honestly, if you were to take his ability to be entertaining in his writing, he would not be known.
Yeah.
I really don't think he would. He has contributed absolutely nothing to the theological discourse that has changed its course in, I guess, in the way we combat heresy, we combat atheism and everything.
Well, it's because he really just contributes to it.
What?
He just put this book out. He contributes to it.
Yeah, now he's contributing negatively.
I wonder if that's just because he's tired of not getting the praise he thinks he deserves.
Right. Yeah. I remember one time,
So is that why he put it out? To be
more praised in a different way?
Yeah, to see,
He's just upset because Jordan Peterson has more followers than he does.
Oh my God, he hates Jordan Peterson.
I know he does.
It's so weird.
I really do think it is like a childish, catty thing.
I remember that. I remember listening to his comments on Jordan Peterson. Anybody listening, go look on YouTube, like David Bentley Hart, Jordan Peterson, and see if you can find any comments that he's made, because they're like unctuous.
What the thing about David Bentley Hart is that he represents. He's manifested the pitiful character that Nietzsche always accuses Christians of being, and so
fat and gross.
No, he accuses them of basically being so pathetic that they can't compete, and so they have to tear everybody down. And he causes the Jews and the Christians basically that they're just pathetic losers. Mm-hmm. And so rather than becoming as great as the master, you accuse what the master is doing as being evil, and then you invert morality. So then what the master's doing is evil and what you're doing is actually good, and you convince them to become lower than what they are. Mm. And this is what his claim is. But then when you see somebody like David Bentley Hart, this is exactly what he's doing with Jordan Peterson. If you ever look it up, but what does he say? He's like, anybody with that many followers is really not that intelligent. And it's just kind of like,
what does that mean?
It means,
what are you, a hipster?
That's what I mean. It means that
intellectual hipster.
He is exactly what Nietzsche criticizes. Is that rather than saying I'm going to try to compete and get as many followers, he's going to make it into a negative. Having a lot of followers.
So your correctness is directly correlated with how few followers you have.
Yeah.
So Christ was wrong.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most wrong ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Of anyone to ever live or die.
It's stupid, and I remember listening. I was like, "Oh, that puts a really bad taste in my mouth." It's like that's not really.
Yeah, and I don't think you would know how catty he is until you hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or how vapid he is.
Yeah, that's why him and Phaser go at it as well.
That's actually why I knew this book existed, was
because
Phaser,
of Phaser. Yeah,
what Phaser said something like, "Oh, another David Bentley Hart book that no one asked me to review." I want him on the show so bad. He has replied to my emails.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I sent him another one, and he didn't respond to that one. I'm trying to get him on Twitter because he has less than 10,000 followers.
Right? Yeah, we could get him.
Sir, I have a seventh of your followers on Twitter. Respond to me.
Yeah, I know.
Let's do it. That would be such a fantastic conversation.
That would be a good episode. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was such a driving force in your return to the church.
Yeah, yeah, at least for my articulation and comprehension and everything. Yeah, it was like. I just remember being more lost beforehand.
I want him on to talk about sedevacantism because he's been on that. I know, he's been on that. And I'm like, he's saying exactly what has been said on the show multiple episodes in a row.
Exactly, yeah.
Just come talk to us about it.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Yeah, he would definitely be someone that I would love to talk to because I do think he, for the most part, is really correct. There are things that I would disagree with him with that I think that he would actually be
able to articulate and push back.
Yeah, and really, really entertain. Because I do think some of his...
You're both academics.
Yep, yeah. Because the book that I think he is the most strong in is The Defense of Capital Punishment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's a good text. It's very well argued, and it isn't like reading DPH. Like, it's an actually well-argued text, right?
Phaser, come on and
and he teamed up with
DBH with us.
he teamed up with somebody else. I forgot his name, but there's other persons more political and all that stuff. So he took his arguments for how capital punishment acts as a deterrent, so on and so forth. But then his final one, which I still think is the best defense for capital punishment, is what Phaser introduced, which is. That is an act of mercy, not yet. Mm. That is an act of mercy and love to kill somebody there. Mm. Like that is the best defense that I think can be presented. But I do think that in the end, it lacks the final quality of what Catholicism and Christianity essentially is, which is it should be in the end sacrificial. That I think it's hard for many Anglo people to truly accept, And so if there was any defense in which I would agree with, it is phasers. But my basic pushback would still be that the most loving thing would be not for him to die, but for you to die for him. And I think that's going to be the hardest thing, that if he never got dispute, that
would be such a random.
It would, yeah.
Well, it would be. I'm sure he'd be flattered if you. Like, hey, you had this one thing in this one text one time that I read because I've read so much of your stuff.
Yes, yeah.
This is the one place
where there's a disagreement. Like, I think the whole episode would just be agreement. Yeah. But I would like to ask him about it because I want to see whether he could defend it even more vigorously, because I could be convinced otherwise. And I say that
he's capable of convincing.
And I've said it to many people all the time. It's like, well, they think that I'm just being hard-headed. It's like, I'm not. You could convince me otherwise. People have. But it has to be proper. It has to be rational. It has to be convincing for me to accept something that is brought to me. But if it isn't put that way, I just think that there's little that you could do at that point to really convince me, if you're not willing to put in the effort to address any kind of objections that I have to it, rather than just brushing it off. But anyways, but yeah, that's it for DBH.
Yeah, we're done. Well, it literally will just end up being dunking on DBH. How he dresses. Like, so we can't talk about him anymore because
he's like, excuse me, I've come down with a little cold. I'm getting over it. I was like, oh my gosh.
Again? Still?
Like the worst, the absolute worst. It was like almost 2 hours long. Not speech. What is that called? Like talks that he gave at the university, lecture that he gave at the university about beauty was the worst one I've ever listened to. It was like, you literally said nothing this entire time. Like, you said nothing. He just objected to the idea that beauty has a, basically he wanted to defend that dreariness and darkness can also be beautiful. That's what it was. But he gave no defense. He just gave
poetic. He didn't say what beauty was.
Poetic prose on, the rain and the darkness is standing in there. I'm like, fuck you. Just say something, please.
You're giving a lecture.
For the fucking love of God, say something rational. I don't care about your stupid prose anymore. They're interesting when I want to be entertained.
Crying and flogging yourself on the ground.
Entertain me when I want to be entertained, but say something if you're going to be in an academic lecture at a university. And if you're not doing that, fuck you.
Go lecture in the English department.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. Do slam poetry. You'll be great at that. Yeah, he's having breathing. him and who is the fat guy? Oh, the fat guy we listened to,
Roderick Long.
Could you imagine both of them discussing?
He's very derided. Yeah, he's derided more than I thought he was.
If both of them were in a room talking to each other, that would just sound disgusting because they both do the heavy breathing. Like,
they both kind of have a Seinfeld thing.
They do.
Roderick Long sounds like these do make.
I know.
Doing
I think they both have a very similar aesthetic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're fat guys.
Yes, but even the way they dress, maybe you can't find other type of clothes when you're that large.
You have to shop in the big and tall.
Yes. I wonder, in the one that we listened to, did he say that he was coming off of a cold as well? I can't remember.
The book?
No.
Roderick. Oh. I don't think so.
Yeah, you don't think so, yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the audiobook. I'm like, he's literally writing.
Yeah, I just got off.
Sorry if these arguments suck. I have a cold. You should just do that from now on.
I know.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a cold. It might make me delusional and irrational. So
just blame it on the cold.
If this book says nothing in the end,
he's got too much fat in his brain.
I'm so sorry. I'm ill. I've fallen ill and I can't.
I've gotten so fat it consumed my brain.
Come down.
It's just like, it's liquid and fat.
Oh my God. He's never coming on the show, is he?
No. I think we made that abundantly clear now. He's not coming.
Expose him. I read his email he sent us about his little bitchy email. Believe me, we probably wouldn't get along.
As he blows his nose. But okay. Yeah. I don't know. What else do you want to talk about?
No, we have a little while. We're only an hour and 5. It's a little weird day because we're going on
Yeah.
Is it Popular Liberty is the name?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Popular Liberty with Andrew.
It should be a good episode.
In a little bit. Yeah, I hope that's fiery.
I hope it gets entertaining.
Yeah. You say entertaining and I say contentious. But yeah.
He honestly does not strike me as somebody who would be too contentious.
No. I think he's opinionated strongly.
Yeah, I think he makes strong claims, and we could go back and forth a little bit. And I really do think it will come off differently in actually speaking than it does writing.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it should be good.
Yeah. Apparently we're talking about Rothbard or something, which was
yes.
a surprise. But it's like, oh, okay, we'll go back to that.
Rothbardianism.
Rothbardian consensualism.
Yes.
Consensual capitalism.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
Both fake things.
You guys are going to get into the capitalist stuff.
I really, the more...
before we get on his show, I'm kind of curious, like, okay, can you lay out your...
Capitalism?
Yeah. Lay out your argument against using that word.
Okay. So, because the more I've researched it...
Yeah.
And the more I think about it and say it, the more convinced I am that I'm correct.
Yeah.
Is that what my issue is that especially in the kind of 70s and 80s in the U.S., the line of argument against communism was to extol the virtues of capitalism, which still happens now.
It does, yeah.
Especially amongst libertarians and stuff, and like they're very pro capitalism, whatever they mean by that. But capitalism, like the term capitalist to refer to people was not what was essentially what was his name, Etienne Clavier.
Okay.
In 1788, first used the word capitalist to describe. I don't remember if it was a person or a system, and he was an ideological figure in the French Revolution that later inspired French communists. And he's essentially, it's a direct lineage to Marx, because Marx was writing in the 1840s, 50s, 60s, right?
Das Kapital.
Yeah. And to call something capitalist is to submit to the communist conception of reality and economics.
Yeah.
It is, because it's not just because they invented the word, but because the concept was first articulated by communists.
Yeah.
It's a communist concept.
Do you think that Marx did not give a strong enough definition of that word? Because
maybe, and I haven't read a ton of Marx, so I don't know, but it's... Because
like philosophically, many times when there is a phenomena that doesn't have a label, we do have to create a label for that phenomena. Yeah. Are you saying that the phenomena itself does not exist, or is it too vague?
Oh, it's way too vague. Well, it's anything that's not communism, which I think you agree with me. I think our conversation we've had about it.
Yeah.
It essentially
I think I do, but I think I do because I haven't thought of it that much, to be honest.
Because it refers to.
Because I've read Marx, and I know whenever I hear contemporary people speak of Marx or speak of capitalism,
should we cover Marx sometime?
We should, yeah.
He'd be very, very long.
Like the contemporary,
we'd have to spend like a month listening to reading something, but
yeah. But since I read it, have you read his work before?
Not a lot.
Okay.
I've read some of Capital and.
Okay, yeah, and then the Manifesto.
Yeah, of course, but
yeah.
So it is true that most of my understanding of his work is interpretations of his work.
Yes, yeah.
In the same way that most of my understanding of Aristotle's thought is interpretations of Aristotle.
Yeah. But normally the interpretations of Aristotle are more accurate. The thing about Marx and what people call Marxism is that there really is a huge disparity between the two. That it's not so much that what we call Marxism is just the actual dialogue. It's not the actual dialectic of Marx.
Yeah.
It's like what people have taken from Marxist theory and reframed it in their, like, they even changed the definition of these things. Do you kind of get what I mean?
No, of course. But when you say capitalism, mm-hmm. now it refers to something.
No, that's what I mean. Now capitalism refers to something, but even what it refers to is not actually directly related to Marx.
Yeah.
It's more related to like Lenin and Stalinism.
Of course. Communism.
And, yes.
Practical.
Yeah. The way that
Maoism.
Yes, exactly.
Pol Pot.
And so like even with Marxist ideology, mm-hmm. when they say capitalism or communism mm-hmm. or socialism, mm-hmm. they don't even mean what Marx meant. Like Marx's idea is a reaction to Hegel.
Of course, yeah.
And if people don't know Hegel,
mm-hmm.
you don't really understand Marx. And then when you read Hegel,
do we have to read Hegel?
Hegel is a synthesis of Eastern thought with Western thought.
Yeah.
And so there are precursors to Marx that makes Marx comprehensible. Mm-hmm. It's the same way like you can't...
It doesn't make him correct.
It doesn't, yeah. The same way that you can't just read Aquinas if you don't know Aristotelian metaphysics.
Yeah.
Like if you just want to jump into it, be like, I'm just going to read the Summa Theologica. And you're going to be lost, right? Because there's jargon, there's history between the problem of change that you kind of need to understand if you're going to understand many of his arguments altogether. There's idea of composition as opposed to simplicity. Yeah. That doesn't come from Aquinas, but Aquinas.
So how can I hone because I'm correct in my intuition that saying capitalism now is a good thing is just dumb.
The thing is that
it's a dumb, vague term that doesn't mean anything. It
exactly.
means what isn't communism.
Yes, right. What happened was that the Stalin and Leninism have taken the terminologies that Marx used.
Yeah. And applied it to their
propaganda and then there were political scientists and philosophers mm-hmm. that took Marx along with the Leninism ideas,
which is the practical application
and
a flavor of practical application of
it is, and so when this is the other part because it isn't just the Marxists, it's also the anti-Marxists, like it's
the people,
them,
the capitalists.
Yes,
that's what I mean. Is like
so this is the difficulty because then the anti-Marxists would make a claim about Marxist theory that isn't actually Marxist theory.
Yeah, and
so whenever you hear like Ben Shapiro, who is an anti-Marxist, right?
But he's not talking about
right, and so when he claims that communism or socialism is giving up property, mm-hmm. it's like, well, Leninism
it's really not.
It isn't, right? Yeah. Because like what Marx was arguing was that when you own the means of production, it isn't that you're giving up property. Mm-hmm. It is that you are owning more fundamentally your property.
How about... Because I still think using capitalism is dumb.
Yeah.
I think it's a dumb label.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it means. I think colloquially at least it means anything that's not communism.
I think that. I agree.
Because I, as far as I understand, capitalism in actual Marxist theory
mm-hmm.
in Marxist framework, it essentially refers fundamentally to the production of wealth and the accrual of that wealth to a certain class of people that then...
That's a consequence of capitalism. So there's...
so what does he mean by capitalism?
So there's industrialism.
Yeah.
And then there's commodity. Mm-hmm. And then there's capitalism. So capitalism is the relation between the commodity and the people.
Yeah. When the commodity is the relation of...
Right, the commodity is the relation between the industry, the industrialism,
and
with the value that is placed into that from the people.
Which is capital.
Yeah, yes, which is capital. And so, so a lot of times when I hear
is this a lot of the like economics missing the point because we don't have God kind of thing?
It is. In the end, this is what the problem is fundamentally with the entire framework is that when you read Hegel, Hegel has what is understood as the movement within history, right? The phenomenology of the spirit. The dialectic of the spirit moving through history. And so his formation was the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. And that the history always flows through these things, and then truth is normally found with the synthesis of the thesis and the antithesis.
Which is the that which is and that which isn't.
Yes. So normally...
Is that a good way to describe those things?
No, it's normally that a thesis is presented.
Yeah.
And then
the antithesis
is like a counter thesis. It is one that is presented in opposition of that thesis. Okay. And then the synthesis is the synthesization of this. So like to think of it philosophically.
The truth is somewhere between the two.
No.
It's both of them.
Yes. And so like when you have like Heraclitus and Parmenides is the best example of this. That you have one that says everything is flux and change and there is no reality that is univocal. And then you have Parmenides say that everything is flux and change is illusion and the only thing that reality is the one to be. Yeah. And then the synthesis would be Aristotelianism, where he says, well, no, it isn't that this is all illusion. Heraclitus is correct that there is, and then Parmenides is correct that there is a constant state of being. And that the constant state of being, the flux of change, we could describe. So
everyone is partially correct and partially wrong.
Yes, and so you
which is something that David Bentley Hart said in this book. Yeah.
So you synthesize these ideas to come up with a more full look of reality, and then that becomes the truth. So that is his dialectical flow within everything he gives through, and then he describes it in concrete ways of how it became reality through his his theory of the great man theory within history, that there are great men that synthesize these ideas and move history along. So like he was alive before Hitler, but Hitler would be like a great man within history because he's the one that synthesized much of the theories that came before him within the early modern period that was coming after him with the postmodernism and with materialism as
so how do I get to say that saying capitalism is dumb still?
So
I know that it's dumb.
Yes.
But if I can't say it's Marxist, I need to have another argument as to why I think it's
exactly.
dumb.
I think because what ended up
happening... Are they submitting to the Leninist conception between the dichotomy?
Yeah. Obviously, ultimately, they're accepting a form of Marxist framework, and that's what I was trying to get at.
An practical application of it.
Yes, because Marxism reacted to this Hegelianism and say that he claimed that all of that is bullshit. Yeah. The only thing that really exists is the world, the physical world, right? And so the physical world, there are no great men that synthesize, an antithesis and a thesis to come up with truth. There's simply
the exercises
of will and so on and so forth. And that these exercises of will, you have things, right? So let's talk about industry.
A Protestant?
Yeah, he was actually. Okay. Yeah. That you have these things, what is it? Commodities and so on. So, but commodities is not merely a thing; it's a relation between the objects and the thing and the people who value those things. And then from there, it comes up with a theory. And so, capital is capital is a value theory of economics, where there is a value placed on those commodities that we call capital that people try to gain. And then there's the proletariat and so on and so forth. And so Leninism is taking that theory and then almost in a way making it even further concrete by saying that the capitalist is the one that is making and producing wealth and owning private property, and that the only way to defeat the capitalist, the one who owns private property, is to abolish their ownership of that private property, so that the entire community partakes in that private property. And so then the entire community has no private property per se. And then this is where the anti-Marxists come into play and saying, you see, you're saying that private property is non-existent, so nobody's owning anything. it's become a
which
mess.
Which is wrong. That's not correct.
Right,
everyone's
because
communally owning things.
Everything has become a mess because not just because of Marxism and the Stalin Leninism, but it's also because of Americanism and many of the Western Europeanism. You have this group of people that, because there's no way that somebody could say in the 1930s much of Western Europe had the same system as the U.S.
Of course, yeah.
They just didn't, right? And so what you're saying is correct. So what did the capitalists become? The capitalists became these like weird quasi-monarchical systems in Europe in the early 1900s, as well as the American system that existed to it, and then like the parliamentary system that exists there. It basically then included everything
that isn't communism. Yeah.
And so there's a weirdness to it because it's so vague that it just
it's a theological term.
And both of them are just lying. Yeah. It's like when the capitalist says that Marxist theory says you have no property, that's a lie. And then when the Marxist theory claims that people do not necessarily own anything within capitalism, that they're just all subjugated to the will of the capitalists. That's wrong too. It's just propaganda. Like you're existing in speech of propaganda that really in the end means very little, if anything at all. And so, I do think there's a chaotic nature to the way things are being spoken of right now that is probably what your intuition is of why it's stupid. So you look at it and be like,
well, it is. It's just, I don't know why they defend the use of capitalism as a term like it's like it's Catholics saying they're the only Christians. It's the same level of fervor. And it's like, why does that matter so much to you to call yourself a capitalist?
Yes, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like when people say capitalism, it's just they're really referring to money. How money functions at all.
Yeah.
How wealth is produced at all. They're like, I'm a capitalist, like in parentheses, like I like producing wealth.
Yes.
It's like, so like how all economies function forever and all of time.
And
and throughout all of history.
Yeah.
Is that what it means to be a capitalist? It just doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's completely meaningless. Right. Communism, at least, like kind of like you can think of people. You can think of like, you can see like Marx with his beard, or like Stalin, or like Lenin. Yeah. At least there's like an aesthetic appeal to that. But when you say you're a capitalist, it's like, John D. Rockefeller, like that's your guy. Yeah. That's the one you want to.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can have more of a conversation about it. I never got a reply. He's in the group chat right now, but he's not replying to my. Well, we need to set up anyway, but anyway, it's a short one. Hopefully it's been dense enough to be worthwhile, but don't let fat guys write too much when they should be working out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.